I'm 28, and I used to think betrayal was something loud. A slammed door, a confession, a scene you can point to and say, that's when everything changed. For me, it happened in a hospital room. And then, 12 days later, it happened again, under my own roof. Two different blows, from two different directions, and somehow they felt connected. My husband's name is Soren. We've been together 6 years, married for a little over 2. He's quiet, dependable, the type who remembers birthdays and never forgets to lock the door. I'm the planner, the person who keeps the calendar running and notices when something feels off. Soren has had the same best friend since childhood, Yarrow. They grew up together, stayed close through everything. That friendship always made me feel safe, like proof Soren knew how to stay. So when Yarrow got seriously sick and ended up hospitalized, I didn't question it when Soren started spending all his spare time there. He brought food, sat through long, quiet hours, made sure Yarrow didn't wake up alone. At first, I was proud of him. Then I visited the hospital. I texted first. Soren replied quickly, "Yeah, come by. He's sleeping." When I arrived, the lights were dim and the machines made those soft, steady sounds. And Soren, my husband, was in the bed, not in a chair. In the bed, close enough that his arm was curved around Jarrow's shoulders. His fingers were running through Jarrow's hair, slow and familiar. My mind went blank in a very specific way, like the part of me that interprets reality just paused. Soren noticed me and moved fast. He practically sprang out of the bed and sat in the chair like he'd been there the whole time. "Hey," he said, too cheerful. Jarrow didn't wake up. On the way home, my rational mind offered explanations. He was comforting him. He fell asleep there. It's a crisis. But my body didn't believe those explanations. And the most unsettling thought circled quietly. He moved like he'd been caught. That night, while Soren showered, I checked his phone. Their entire message thread was empty. Not just a few messages missing, empty. As if they'd never texted at all. But I knew they texted constantly. The absence was louder than any message could have been. I also found messages between Soren and Jarrow's sister, Leva. She had offered to fly in to help. Soren told her not to come yet, that he had it handled, that no one could take better care of Jarrow than he could. That line made my throat tighten, not because it was romantic, because it was possessive. When Soren came out of the shower, I placed the phone on the table and asked carefully, "Why is your chat with Yarrow wiped?" He froze for a fraction of a second. Then irritation slid into place. "I didn't want my phone full of junk," he said. "It's nothing." I asked him about the hospital bed. "He's sick," Soren snapped. He was scared. I was comforting him. I said, "Okay," because I didn't know what else to say. Then another detail, one I'd ignored for months, rose up in my mind. Soren insisted on using protection when we were intimate. Every time. We were married, monogamous, tested. When I asked, he said, "It's just what I prefer." That night, I stared at the ceiling and wondered what kind of marriage needed distance, even in its closest moments. I didn't confront him again. Not immediately. Because my life was already cracked in another place. 2 weeks earlier, my closest friend had died unexpectedly. The loss was so sudden my brain still kept expecting to see her name pop up on my phone. Soren knew this. He'd held me while I cried. He'd promised me I wasn't alone. So I told myself, don't add a marriage crisis on top of grief. You can't handle both. I tried to compartmentalize. I tried to pretend the hospital moment was just intense loyalty. Then I came home from visiting my mother 12 days later. The house was too quiet for midday. I assumed Soren was napping. I walked upstairs to wake him, partly habit, partly because if I didn't, he'd later complain he lost the day. I opened the bedroom door, and I saw my younger sister, Naya, scrambling out of a lingerie bodysuit that belonged to me. Not something similar. Mine. My mind went blank again. The same white flash behind my eyes. Soren sat up too fast, sheets twisting around his waist. Naya's face went pale. They looked more shocked than I felt, which is a strange thing to say, but it's true. It was like my body shut off sensation so I wouldn't collapse. Soren started talking immediately. Too many words. It was an accident. I was lonely. I needed relief. Naya didn't speak. She kept trying to cover herself, like fabric could undo what I'd seen. I didn't scream. I didn't hit anyone. I just turned and walked out of the house, without my car. I walked to a friend's place and sat on her couch while she handed me water and let me say the words out loud. That night, I slept on my friend's couch and woke up every hour like my nervous system didn't trust rest. In the morning, I went back to the house with my friend in the passenger seat and my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Soren was waiting in the kitchen like he'd been rehearsing. He didn't look ashamed. He looked annoyed, like the biggest inconvenience was that I'd witnessed it. "Can we talk?" he said. I asked him one question, the only one that mattered. "How long?" He blinked and then tried to redirect. "It wasn't serious," he said. "It just happened." He said it the way people talk about weather. I looked at him and felt the strange split between my emotions and my logic. My emotions were screaming. My logic was taking notes. "Did you use our bed on purpose?" I asked. "Was that part of it? Or did you just stop caring whether I had a home to return to?" He rubbed his forehead. "You're making it sound worse than it is. Worse than it is. As if reality had adjustable settings." I asked about Jaro. I didn't accuse him of anything. I simply said, "Do you love him?" Soren's face tightened. "That's disgusting," he snapped. Then, softer, like he was correcting a child. "Jaro is my brother, that's all." But the rage in his voice didn't match the simplicity of his explanation. And I kept thinking about the wiped messages. People don't delete nothing. They delete what they don't want seen. I told him I needed space. He tried to negotiate. He tried to make it about my grief, my stress, my overreaction. He tried to turn my boundaries into a symptom. So I did the most practical thing I could think of. I became boring. I told him I would communicate through text. I took photos of important documents, our lease, insurance, bank statements. I changed passwords. I called my workplace and asked for a few days off, not because I wanted to disappear, because I needed a moment where no one could demand anything from me. Before I left, I went upstairs, opened my closet, and found the lingerie bodysuit. It was half folded, like it had been handled quickly. I held it in my hands for a second and realized something small but brutal. It wasn't about the clothes. It was about the entitlement, the belief that everything in my life, my home, my body, my belongings, even my grief, could be used and then dismissed. After that, the days blurred. Soren messaged constantly. Naya sent a long text about how the situation you found us in wasn't ideal and how they wanted to properly explain. She told me she loved me and didn't want to lose me. The wording felt rehearsed, like they believed they could edit reality the way my husband had edited his messages. They asked me to meet them, to hear them out. I wrote back one message, short, clear. "I'm not meeting you. I'll talk when I'm ready." "You both owe me time?" Then I turned my phone face down and cried until my eyes burned. That's what betrayal does. It doesn't just break trust. It breaks your sense of reality. It makes you recheck your own memory. It makes you wonder what else you missed while you were being kind. And somewhere under the chaos, the hospital image kept returning, quiet, persistent. The bed, the wiped messages, the insistence on protection, the way Soren had moved when he saw me. I started to wonder if my marriage had been two lives living side by side. The one I saw and the one he hid. I don't know what Soren feels for Jaro. I don't know what he's been hiding. I don't even know if he understands himself. But I know this. I am done being the last person to learn the truth. I'm telling my family, not as revenge, as reality. Secrecy is the soil where this kind of betrayal grows, and I'm done watering it. I'm also calling a therapist, not to fix what they broke, to help me carry the grief without turning it into a cage. I don't know what my life looks like next month. I don't know how holidays will work. I don't know if I'll ever speak to Naya again. But I do know the one thing that matters. I didn't fail as a wife. I didn't fail as a sister. I trusted the people closest to me, and they chose to betray that trust. That says everything about them, and nothing about my worth. This concludes today's story. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to support our work.